Hello, welcome to our video lecture for WhiteBalance, and we're going to talk a little bit about how color appears on film. So I want to start off with this question: when is white not white? Well, white can appear different in different color scenarios. So take a white sheet of paper you have, printer paper, and take it to different types of light. So take it outside, take it in the shadows, take it next to different types of light bulbs, and you'll notice that there will be a color shift on the sheet of paper. So we're going to talk a little bit about color temperature. We have this graphic here that has different types of color temperatures which are measured in Kelvin. And it describes the light appearance off of different types of light sources. So the appearance of light based on like a match flame is 1700 Kelvin, which is a lower number, which will appear warmer. And then a light shift of a clear blue sky is warmer technically, but a cooler color of 1500 to 2700 Kelvin. Each light source will offer a different color of light based on this Kelvin scale, sort of how temperature is rated. Warmer colors have cooler temperatures, so kind of think opposite of what things are opposite in photography. So just try to remember this is another thing where you need to flip. Think of it as when you're working on a gas burner. If the flame is blue, it is actually hotter than a normal flame, like if you have built a fire in your yard. So we're going to look at this graphic here. So the color of light shifts and our brain will compensate for this, but your camera needs help to compensate for the shift. Sometimes you can visually notice a little bit of difference, but standing in incandescent light or a cloudy day actually won't appear that much different, but the camera needs help to notice this. So if we look at different types of light, and this is sort of the color shift the camera will add to it to kind of, actually this is the color that the camera will read, and then we'll need the opposite to add to it to kind of reverse it. And you can kind of see these are actually common settings your camera will use for WhiteBalance to do sort of in-camera settings. When you're reading through your manual, this can make a lot of changes. So if you've played around a little bit, I've always say do auto WhiteBalance, but we're going to talk about setting specific WhiteBalances. And we can kind of see different types and how the camera will. So this is one scene, and we're same exposure, and just shifting the WhiteBalance throughout. And this is something that we're going to explore with a little activity that you guys will be doing with eggs. So if you notice how when we change the WhiteBalance settings in camera only, how it affects the color tone overall. So this is auto WhiteBalance. And sometimes you may need to do these settings to kind of make quick adjustments based on the type of light. I know when I shoot strobes in my own studio, I use a flash WhiteBalance, and it will just say it will make compensation based on the type of light that I'm using. You can also make a custom WhiteBalance for your lights. And we can look at this sort of lighting here. So daytime lighting, actually quite a few of these are pretty close. Fluorescent, incandescent, and auto seem very off, but the rest of them seem fairly close with each other. That could be a correct WhiteBalance, but when shooting at night with artificial lights, it's a little bit more difficult. So these type of lights will actually read fairly differently. There might be different types of light sources and different types of light bulbs. So you can see what auto would it look like, as shot. So this is actually probably for post-processing. And you can make these adjustments in post, and we'll go through that demo next week. But you can see different types of lighting here. And in camera, you can make the adjustments, so you can go through. Mine are actually at the top of my Canon, so I can make I can change it through there. You should have these light settings. You should be able to do a custom one. Not shown in this, but you can see incandescent, which is your normal light bulbs, fluorescent, direct sunlight, flash, cloudy, and shade, and then auto. As I talked here about the custom white balance, you can do a custom white balance, which is fairly simple. You do need to read your manual, and there's also a page on it in your white balance reading. There's some PDFs to read. Is if you take a sheet of paper in a normal, the light setting that you want, and you can set it for a custom to tell the camera this is what white looks like in this light setting. And this is really important to do because you can make a guesstimate, but depending on where the sun is, if there's different types of light or mixed lighting situations, like if you're shooting indoors and you have some sunlight coming in and then you have some incandescent bulbs, there could be some different sort of readings for what white could be in the scene. They also have this thing called an expo disc. You may have seen about it if you're really into wedding photography, but it's a white balance filter you just fit over your lens. Take a photo and it'll read it as a white sheet of paper instead of having to carry around a sheet of paper. And here you can set your white balance. And a lot of wedding photographers or action photographers or event photographers will use an expo disc. If you just Google expo disc, EXPODISC, might be really helpful to learn. As I previously mentioned, why you would use a custom white balance is for mixed lighting. And you can see we've got warm light and cool light, and it's really hard to balance. And sometimes you do really want to reference both warm and cool, but you want white to still appear white. As you can see in this scene, this is taken from Girls Rock Phoenix. This is why you want to do set a custom white balance, because there's 3 different light sources, and it's really difficult to white balance this. As you see, part of the scene is corrected, part of the scene is cool. We've got cool light coming in, daylight, fluorescent, and incandescent light. And the overall room is not well lit, and it's a very large room. So this is why you really want to kind of take the time to do a custom white balance, because if you're just shooting auto, you don't recognize how difficult it is to edit it out in post-processing. And which we'll be doing when we do our Lightroom demo next week. But you can make adjustments. You can correct these sort of auto adjustments in post-processing. And we'll also, when you've done your camera raw demo, you played around with the tint a little bit to fix it. There's other things you can do to kind of neutral out. There's the X-Rite Color Checker Passport, which a lot of fashion photographers will do to kind of make sure everything is absolutely correct. These little passports, I think they run around $90, but you shoot your subject with it, holding it up like so, and it's a program you can install through Lightroom. And it can set up and create a calibration exactly for what these colors are supposed to be based on this color checker passport. You can't just hold up any colors and do it, because it has a very specific calibration for what that purple looks like, what that gray looks like, what that black looks like. So if you're really into sort of studio fashion photography, this might be helpful, and this is what this could be there for. And then the model can just remove it, and you can set that as a parameter or a calibration for your whole photography set you shot that day. Again, in post, you can do things by holding up gray cards or white cards to set neutrals, to kind of easily select for that white balance. As you can see, the model's skin tone is accurate on the one on the right. The gray is a true middle gray, and her shirt appears more color correct. And you can just select the neutral to kind of white balance, and this will make more sense in our Lightroom demo. As I talked before about monitor calibration, this could also be key because you're relying on your own eyes to calibrate. And learning to see colors, something that's going to be very difficult. I've been doing this for a very long time. I can spot when something's a little green. I can spot when something is too cyan. So learning color correction is really important, especially if you're wanting to get into commercial photography. So being able to calibrate your monitor to make sure your monitor is calibrated is really important. This is a Color Spider 5. This is what I use on both my MacBook, my external monitor, and my iMac. So I use this to kind of color correct my monitors often, and I make sure I kind of work in the same lighting situation. And you can also look at Calibrize. This is the second time I've mentioned it, but this is a free program for you to color calibrate your own monitor without spending the $250 for this program. So what you're going to be shooting as sort of a little demo is you'll be shooting eggs. And we're shooting eggs because they are white. And eggs are white dependent on the color of the chicken that lays them. You may go into Whole Foods and see like brown eggs, or if you have your own chickens, maybe the eggs are spotted, and it's really dependent on the chicken that lays them. And I found this out for my own curiosity of why eggs are white. Sometimes they are bleached white because that's what we see as sort of a clean, fresh egg. But we're looking for clean white eggs. Get them from the grocery store. You can hollow them out. I will post a link on how to hollow out the yolk on your egg. But we're going to be shooting eggs in different situations and adjusting the white balance settings in camera. So you're going to take your egg into different scenes. And I want you to be creative about it, not just be like, oh, I put my egg on my desk. And with indoor lighting, I took my egg outside. You're going to take your egg into multiple different scenes, and you're just going to play with your different white balance settings, shoot the exact same exposure, just change your white balance settings around, and you are going to make sure that is corrected in post. So you're going to shoot them, it's going to appear wrong in camera, that's fine. When we get into our Lightroom demo next week, we will talk about how to color correct based on something that's supposed to be color corrected. I want you to have fun with this project. Take your eggs wherever you go and take lots of photographs of you and your eggs. I want you to be creative. Think about how you can photograph a small object and give it a little bit of personality. And these were just some examples that students shot for this assignment. Please read through the readings to understand a little bit more about white balance and how cameras see and understand color. Have a good day.